And welcome everyone to a special mid-season spoiler cast for Ahsoka. We are halfway through it now. As always, I'm Mitch. You can follow me in the socials in the link tree in the description. If I can't talk today, I apologize. I'm just really tired. And I will stumble and fumble every sentence like I usually do. But joining today is Jared from the Nerd Academy podcast.
Yes, fear not, dear listeners. I am here to protect you all from bad Star Wars takes, and keep the analysis respectable here when it comes to Star Wars.
So that means Jared hates it, because I have been saying I really enjoyed this show.
No. This show is incredible. I get worried, man. I get worried.
You say Andor bad one time, and that's it.
Listen, it's not that Andor is bad. It's that the Andor stands are insufferable. Okay?
That is very true, yeah.
Andor is phenomenal. Andor fans are frustrating.
It's true. It's true.
It's very much the Raimi Spider-Man problem, where it's like, yes, these movies are good, but you're missing why, and it's killing me. But no, I'm very excited to talk mid-season Ahsoka. I've been loving this show up to this point. This past episode 4, Fallen Jedi, feels like it was written for me. And I'm absolutely in love and excited to get in the weeds here.
Yeah. Oh, before we start, pay your writers and actors, please.
Yes.
Time. Pay your writers and actors. If you're willing to lose $500 million in a year, you can fork out pocket change of less than 1% of your yearly gross.
Less than 1%. It is.
It's barely
abhorrent.
Half. Isn't it like 0.6?
Yeah, it's abhorrent. The level of just wanton greed that is on display right now, and the fact that the studios are just at this point okay with letting the industry cave in on itself. Because we've learned, even the people that even the less bad CEOs, you're never going to see me saying good CEOs, but even the less bad ones, like your Bob Igers, like have just fully shown their true colors in these situations.
What a way to destroy a legacy.
Yeah.
For years, Iger was known as like the creative CEO, and he was all in favor of this and that. And now it's, how am I being vilified? Like, I wonder why, Bob.
Yeah,
I wonder why.
You've thrown in with the anti-art. This is all about like every single. I can't at the core of these strikes. I can't help but think about the weird Discovery merger, like infographic. Of just remember, instead of actual creatives being at the helm right now, we have genredom and lean in, lean back. Like, what? This is nonsense. You're just all saying words. This show is incredible, and we have been deprived. And we as the viewer, obviously, have been deprived of getting to see Rosario Dawson and Natasha Lubrizzo and the rest of the cast discuss this show, discuss the mythos of Star Wars, see Dave Filoni get to talk more in depth about the show. We're never going to get to see that, and that is,
you might get it after. Well,
we might get it after.
There is ever an end to a strike,
and I'm sure there's going to be some Disney Gallery Star Wars Ahsoka or whatever, but like as of now. And granted, it's low on the pecking order here in terms of the egregious behavior of the studios, but it is still there. It is still one of the many things that, like, we as the consumer are getting screwed out of because of wanton corporate greed.
Yeah. My biggest thing is, and it came out, I think it was yesterday, the suspension of contracts at Warner Brothers. With,
it was like
I can't think,
and a couple other people.
Yeah, I can't think. I was going to say Mindy Kaling. I'm not sure if was she part of that.
You're right.
I know she did.
You're right.
Like all like top, middle, bottom talent they have. Sure, it's not the 2007, we're just going to outright end the contracts and first look deals and all this stuff. But suspending and extending, which is what they're doing, it just shows you that they're not in a position to actually do anything. The studios currently have no power outside of agreeing to a deal.
Yeah.
They have a very weak stance. They know this. And they
one of the biggest things right now that you need to remember is there was that whole thing about like the amount of money that Ninja Turtles lost because of the strikes. And, you know, at the same time that Ninja Turtles was losing that money, there were also all the things about, oh my God, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is like a viable brand again. So if Mutant Mayhem was kind of this driving force behind reviving the Ninja Turtles brand, but it also is like obviously missing out on money that would have been made because of the strikes, think about like the proportional other elements here. You know, like there's real power here, and I do truly hope that the studios are able to wake up here. But I do fear that a mix of corporate greed and head assery is going to keep them from allowing the individual studios to collaborate to get us a deal. But
hopefully it'll be over soon, because it's just stupid at this point. But at the same time, it's getting, you know, VFX workers are unionizing.
Yeah,
other people starting to make a union. No.
The Hollywood Revolution is making me so happy. You know, I want more of it. I want more of it. I want these studios to feel as held hostage as their workers have felt for Infinity. You know, I want the studios to be like, nope, we cannot. Like I want them to walk on eggshells forever, knowing that like at 100%. any moment the industry gets yanked out from under them.
Exactly. But right, Ahsoka, Snips, Ahsoka.
Oh man,
whatever you want to call her.
Shouts out my girlfriend. Had to watch this with me as it aired.
just tears.
Oh my God, dude. I usually thought I was watching a live sporting event during these lightsaber duels. And that's what I'm saying.
They were good. They were good.
This was my jam. Like this was my kind of Star Wars. Like when it comes down to it, like it was weird Force stuff. It was the master and apprentice bond. It was temptation of the dark side. The episode was titled Fallen Jedi. Like I started to mark out at the title. I started tweaking at the title. I saw the tweet, yeah. You know who liked the tweet? By the way, just gonna flex here real quick. The Star Wars account was the first person. Was the first account to like that tweet. That's the second time I got a like from the Star Wars account. Nice. And I was like, "Ooh, hey, look at me!" But no, I was tweaking the entire episode. I said this on Twitter as well. I think that Baylan Skoll versus Ahsoka might be a top, but is probably a top 10, might be a top 5 lightsaber duel for me. I have watched that fight over and over and over and over again. And again, man, like I've said this anytime I've talked about Ahsoka, I've said this, and I gotta say it again. Like on top of the strikes, it is such a travesty to have lost a performer like Ray Stevenson.
Yeah.
And it is an even greater travesty that he is not around to hear the mounds and mounds of praise he individually is getting. And a show that is, on the whole, incredibly well acted. He is the standout, like far and away. And it is because of these little nuances he brings to the role. My friend and collaborator and other archenemy, Alden Diaz, made a comparison to the way George Lucas and Gary Kurtz directed Alec Guinness in A New Hope. That like a lot.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah,
because I've been calling Baylan like the dark side Qui-Gon. and I stand by that.
Mm.
I know some people have like kind of gone like it's kind of like a darker Obi-Wan in some ways. I see more Qui-Gon in him,
I
but
see an
like
older Obi, like the McGinnis Obi-Wan. Yeah, I can't
yeah,
not necessarily Ewan's, but
yeah, but like the whole thing with like Alec Guinness has he has like some lines that there's a vagueness to them that delivered by a lesser actor and less well directed that it could just come off as kind of like a platitude, like a cliche, but like
yeah,
there are subtle choices made by Guinness and Stevenson as actors that just inject so much character and nuance, and like again, like this is a fully fledged person who has lived a full life up to this point into their performance. Like I'm still stuck on the whole you have to kill Ahsoka Tano, there are so few Jedi left. Sentimental fact, you know like
yeah, yeah.
that exchange. I was like, oh no, I have a new favorite character. Damn,
No,
like
that was my moment with him as well. Just like,
I
who are you? No, this is cool.
I want to know everything about you now. What happened? It happened with Kylo Ren. It happened with Kylo Ren, where it's like within the first moments they do something so captivating that I'm like, I'm about to make liking you my whole personality. It happened with Kylo. Like he catches the blaster bolt. They make the very obvious allusion that he is a Skywalker. He walks away from the blaster bolt, no physical gesture, no eye contact, has a full-on conversation with Poe Dameron, keeps that there, walks away from it, and then it hits that like moisture evaporator or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm so in. And then obviously we in the trailers we got the talking to the charred Vader helmet. I will finish what you started. It looped me in completely. I was like, I love everything about you, and you're my favorite character now. And like the same thing's happening with Balin. Like he is just so, oh my god, I need to know everything about him. I need like 3 comic runs and 2 books and and an anthology series, and I need everything about Balin Skull, because
I'm
like
just dreading the Hot Toys announcement because I know it's coming,
man,
and I can't do
I
that.
I also want to say I want to take the L. I want to take an L on something real quick. I've been complaining about the lightsabers not looking as orange because everybody made a big deal about the lightsabers being
I've
orange.
been waiting to bring that up since you brought up braiding. I wanted to bring that up, but no.
Okay, Taylor and I realized our TV's weird.
Is it though?
I want to take the L because here's the thing. I was watching the clip of the fight on YouTube. That is an orange lightsaber. That trailer, or I'm sorry, the poster that dropped the other day that has like
Is
Anakin
orange?
in the background. Shin's lightsaber
No,
is
it has mannequin in the background.
stop. It had like that lightsaber is a vibrant orange, and Marok's is a crimson next to her. So I will take the L that there's probably a setting wrong on our TV that I need to fix before next week, because I want to take in these orange lightsabers in all their glory, because I think it is really cool that we have a whole Star Wars show that has a lot of lightsabers and not a single one is blue. Like, and I say that as
Yeah, yeah.
somebody who, like, in most Star Wars, like, pick your lightsaber color, picks either blue or purple. I love
Orange is top.
well, I love the fact that we're again, and this is just so like lizard brained nerd, but it makes me happy. It makes the like EU fanboy in me happy that all of the lightsaber duels we've seen in the show so far has been green on orange, white on orange, and white on red. Like there has like it's just it. I love the diversity of lightsaber color
Mm.
so much
I
that like
just
the only normal one we've had has not touched the like a normal matchup of like green and red. It's been green and orange.
yeah.
It just again, this is so specifically like Star Wars brain rot, but it makes me happy.
I just wish it was clearer because you watch the trailers and it looked. Everyone said it looked off, and it's like it doesn't look. It looks different.
Yeah.
Personally, like there wasn't as much white in there, and it looked a bit smoky. Cool. It seemed intentional at the time. You get to the show, and my TV anyway, you can see the difference between like Marek's saber and Shin's, but it's still Shin's looks still very red, like more reddy orange. But then they dropped that poster 5 minutes after the damn thing aired, and it's bright orange. It's more like the new Jedi games in a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just want
It's
a
like
bit
a
more
video game
consistency
orange
with that color.
lightsaber, and
Yeah,
yeah. Well, because I kind of like arrived at the conceit. I'm like, okay, I guess it's like a blood orange, where like when
yeah.
you like it looks red until you put it next to red, and you're like, oh, okay, this I guess this is orange because how red the red looks, but no, like that between that poster and the clip of the Balin fight I've been watching on YouTube over and over again, I'm like, okay, I gotta futz with the TV because I do think it's a TV issue because also like my
It doesn't help.
girlfriend
The show's just dark as well. It's
the
very
the show.
overly color graded.
Well, that's the thing is also like it didn't look that bad in the YouTube clip I watched. So either the person who posted it is like futzing with the color set.
So I saw a tweet like I think it was the first week because the first episodes for me didn't look bad. It looked fine. Right, I didn't have a problem with how that the color grading went on it. But then I saw a tweet going, "Oh, Disney Plus uploaded the wrong file," and there was like 2 files, and they selected the wrong one. And if you looked at the other one, it was like vibrant. You could make out every detail. But then episode 3, for me, was really dark. But then 4 was like in the middle, and I don't know what's going. Like, if it was a TV, it would be consistent throughout.
Yeah.
I genuinely think it's on their end, and I wish they'd stop with this grey feel because it's mucking everything up.
Yeah. I mean, I like things more vibrant to begin with, but yeah, no. Either way, everything about this. Oopsie. That's the hey Jared, you have to record alarm. Wake up. No, but I have been loving everything with Balin so much, and he like the thing with him that I do find so fascinating is that like you have him lamenting the idea of having to kill Ahsoka, but by the same token, like the moment the gloves came off and the sabers turned on, like there's also a
inevitable,
like
how inevitable,
like he like oh my god, like what are you about like. He was like, there's this whole thing of like, oh well, you know, like so few Jedi left, and it'd be a shame to have to kill her. And then, you know, he was also like, oh look at you, another Jedi who sees the only way they see to handle this conflict is by taking out their lightsaber. Which again, like, is an interesting analysis. I do want to say again, as much as I love him, he is the bad guy, and I think Balin expecting everybody to come to his terms is not necessarily good or fair. As fun as a character decision as it is, I can already hear Star Wars fans who still think balance in the Force is 2 Jedi and 2 Sith. I could already hear the Balin was right, actually. Even I say that I was rooting for him. I'm not even gonna lie. I was rooting for him. I wanted Balin to win that fight. I was fully won over. Like I say that,
he
but
did, and he does.
He did. Yeah. Oh man. This. I just want to watch.
He's got like a dark paladin vibe about him. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
And one of the things I love about it, like, you know, getting in the weeds of like the 7 forms, you know, which is just like a very specific like love of mine with Star Wars. Check out the Nerd Academy Patreon, $5 tier, Star Wars versus series.
Do it.
You know, we talk about that stuff all the time on that show. I love seeing Balin fight because it is textbook Form 5, like taken to the nth degree. Like, so many people think about Gemso as kind of like sloppy and brutish because it is the style based around counteroffensive and physical strength. Because you think of Vader lumbering around, because you think of Kylo Ren with this like berserker rage. But like the technical element of Balin's swordplay is so fun to watch. Like there is so like the blade binding, the way he's able to control Ahsoka's sword in combat, that crazy like whirlwind attack he does. Oh my god, I did the Joe Rogan commentator's desk meme when he did that. Like I was like, whoa, like losing my mind again. My poor girlfriend. My poor girlfriend. That's to say nothing of the ending. But no, I love stop. It doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look
He
that bad. The World Between
looked.
Worlds has really weird lighting.
It does, but then you have to. To be fair, the poster's not great either. But it's my thing. I don't understand why you couldn't just let Hayden be Hayden there. I just don't get it. Why? There was no need to do that there. If he's not going to be he obviously is a Force ghost or a ghost because he's dead, but he doesn't have the blue around him. If it's in this thing we don't really know that much about, just let him be Hayden.
I understand.
Hayden doesn't look that bad. You only touched up a little bit in Kenobi. You just let him.
No, I mean, yeah, Hayden does
be.
look great. Like I got to meet him this year. Like he looks great. But I don't know. I do like the idea. I don't mind.
It's also I think it's the lack of expression. You could see the like the skeleton, the rig, just not doing. Obviously, because Disney's not paying people enough. Like it just wasn't enough. There was no for him seeing her for the first time or her seeing him for the first time. There wasn't that much emotion in him, and I think that's what I wanted more.
I don't know. I think for him on his end, and this is more like a character versus execution thing. I think for him, assuming first things first, assuming this is Anakin, assuming
outright refuse to believe it's not.
Well, assuming this is like Anakin ostensibly being a Force ghost just because World Between Worlds, maybe he could physically manifest, blah blah blah, whatever weird Force nonsense is at play here. Assuming it's Anakin, I think there is a sense of him, like, because time does not exist where he's at this point. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think for him, it's more a level of like, oh yeah, like, hey, like, I don't think it's as big a deal for him. Like, it's massive that he gets to finally see Ahsoka and talk to her post. But I think for him, it's more of it's a refreshing thing because he like is existing in such a weird plane that this is a bigger deal for Ahsoka than it is for him. And like metaphysically, that is, because he has a lot of explaining to do. And this is a big deal for him that like you get X amount of time to set a lot of stuff straight before you go back into like the netherworld of the Force. But I don't know. I think that was part of it for me, is that there's kind of like a knowingness to his arrival, you know? Like, and I think part of that is driven home by how casual he addresses casually that like he leads with the hey snips, that like the fact that he leads with the hey snips like kind of lends itself to that informality of like, oh man, it's so good to see you. Can we talk?
Yeah.
You know, that I think will kind of crescendo with emotional weight. Now, how Anakin is manifesting, we will see. I think that there are a lot of interesting angles you can take here. I don't want to directly address it. But there is a rumor, there is a leak floating around about what may or may not be in next week's episode. That,
of course, there is.
Well, it broke several weeks ago. And I just want to say this, first of all, stop sourcing making Star Wars. Jason Ward is a scumbag. Like, aside from like not liking leakers, he's a bad person.
Yeah.
And Bespin Bulletin should know better, but they like those clicks. But there is a leak floating around about next week's episode that, should it be true, I don't want to dwell on this too much and like tip the hand for people who aren't aware, but that musical stinger at the end of the episode is
very intentional. Yeah,
it's haunting. It is haunting. Like it gave me goosebumps the same way that sticking around for the end of the credits for Phantom Menace does, because, and I don't know if you are aware of this Easter egg or not.
Yeah, we hear Vader breathe.
Yeah, well, it's so Anakin's theme in the Phantom Menace has a passage in it that is the Imperial March in the major key.
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's only in the credits of the Phantom Menace is the only time there is this like slow descent of Anakin's theme turning into the Imperial March. And this is more for anybody who isn't aware, because I still find people who have no idea that, like, because
that's wild to me.
Is right. But like again, that part of Anakin's scene is like da 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 da, and it's slowly that we're morphing into a dun 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 dun, and it hits this pace where it is sluggish, and like it brings this foreboding sense of like nothing can stop what is about to happen. You are watching the beginning of the end for everybody you just met in this movie, and then that very slow dun 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 dun, and then you hear Vader breathing. That like it is that I got from the end of this episode, like that level of like, oh, like, because again you get so excited to see him, and that beautiful transition of Ahsoka like laying on that like
that might genuinely be my favorite shot in Star Wars. I adored that. Absolutely adored that.
I loved it. And at first I thought she was floating like in a weird body.
In the water, yeah.
I was like, oh, like maybe it's weird. Like I thought of like that like weird pit of water that Steve Trevor's laying in Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Because it kind of has like it has like a similar, like it's glowing around
that
the person.
ethereal look to it, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, like, you know, like Cetos is already such a weird looking planet. Like, you know, maybe there's like weird glowy water. And I'm like, oh my, no. And that's the moment where I gasped. And I was like, oh my God, she's gonna see Anakin. Like immediately, I was like, he's here. He's got to be here. And I'm like, and I'm like holding on again. Shouts out my girlfriend. She shouldn't have had to do this alone. But I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, it's a woman. I'm screaming. And then you see Anakin, and it is such a beautiful moment. And we as the viewer who, you know, especially those that kind of like speak the film language of Star Wars, understand what's happening here, right? That like Ahsoka is clearly doubting herself as a mentor, as a Jedi, you know, lowercase j or uppercase j, however you want to define that. You know, she's doubting herself as a Jedi, as a mentor, as a leader, as a person, and now her mentor, her master, who, you know, has this like very troubled, checkered history, is here to aid her and like kind of walk her through what she's feeling. And like, you know, and we freak out, and as fans we get excited because we're seeing Hayden, you know, and like it's crazy, like it's like everything we've wanted from this show. And then you get that dun 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 in the credits.
Yeah.
And like people aren't talking about it enough. And I think there's a very funny level of like choosing to ignore it that is happening, because I think
you can really pass it off as,
back. I think
you can really just pass it off as like, hey, it's, you know, Anakin's back, Vader. Like it's just part of the little score they have for him. It's they're just teasing that it's Vader again.
That's what, and you know, it's funny because that's what Taylor said. That is what Taylor said. She's like, it's the iconic theme. Like people associate that with Anakin as much as they do Vader. I'm like, yeah, sure. Anakin has a whole ass theme song too. You You know,
But on the
so
flip
does the
side,
world
people
between
are
worlds.
missing the Gandalf connections
You
to
know,
everything, though.
so absolutely. But I was like, you know, the world between worlds has a leitmotif. Ahsoka has a leitmotif. Anakin and Ahsoka have a leitmotif. There are so many leitmotifs from the Clone Wars you could have put there. They put the Imperial.
But that specific one, yeah.
They chose Darth Vader's theme. And I am so afraid that something deeply traumatic is coming next week. And
I mean, he's going to be the Balrog, right, to her Gandalf, because we know she has to end up in that cloak with the staff in this show. I outright don't believe she's not going to be at that point by the end of this thing.
Perhaps.
And the amount of times that they've done like the last shot from Rebels, you know, we're going to have it like 8 times by the end of this thing. But I firmly believe that's where Filoni's going to take it, and just having her lose that fight and falling down and being here and hearing that, it's like, yeah, this is probably going to be it.
Yeah.
And next week is the time where she has to come to face with the whole Vader thing and move past that and come out with the stick.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of the conversation at play here is going to be about, you know, Ahsoka, her ability to connect with people, and the way that she blames herself for Vader. You know, she says in Rebels, like, you know, I'm not going to leave you again. Like, I think deep on some level, she thinks that had she not been there, or had she been there, had she not walked away from the Order, had she not gone to Mandalore, she could have pulled Anakin back. And I'm curious to see how that plays out and what direction that goes in. Even with the Mandalore stuff, like that's another factor here that, like, that whole, again, this episode was so dense and entertaining that moments like finding out Sabine is the last living member of Clan Ren.
Yeah, that was nuts. Even though I just assumed that her parents were dead anyway.
Yeah,
that was always my assumption. I know people, there was always that ambiguity with everything, but
oh, absolutely, and I agree with you that, like, there is this weird sense of, like, oh, like, they probably were wiped out, and like, not to minimize, like, it as a character beat, and for the people who, like, love those characters and were affected by it, or affected by the revelation, but, like, they're also, like, great cannon fodder. Like yeah. they are both with one N and two N's. They are great cannon fodder to be like, oh yeah, they were wiped out in the Night of 1,000 Tears. Like, it's right there. It's right there. You know, they are characters who are important to the narrative, who are important to Sabine, who you also can just be like, yeah, and they also were, you know, they died in this Mandalorian genocide, and, you know, how does Sabine feel about that? Is something I really want to understand. What does Baylan mean with the whole because she didn't trust you? How the hell does he know that? Like, that was one of the things that occurred to me where I was like, either Baylan knows a lot of things and, like, things are, like, semi, like, available knowledge that he's, like, gleaned. There is incredible word through the grapevine, or Baylan's a hell of a telepath.
Yeah.
Like, aside from being, like, an amazing brawler, you know, like, he also can, like, you know, pierce, like, through the mind, and, you know, like, and again, like, Sabine and her, like, weird, and her own weird relationship with the Force, it checks out that somebody who's, like, probably, like, Jedi Master caliber is able to just, like, right into this, like, kind of like,
because he has that little like deep breath moment before he says that. Like, it looks like he's giving her a quick read over,
like he's prodding her mind, which again, like, it is very Qui-Gon. To just kind of, okay, jab, 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 jab. But, you know, like, that's another thing that I just want to see unpacked with Ahsoka and Sabine, is that, like, again, like, Ahsoka's whole, I was in the wrong place, I should have been there with Anakin. Well, you did liberate Mandalore from Darth Maul, you know, which, again, maybe that is one of the many, like, dominoes that fell that led to the Night of 1,000 Tears in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you saved Mandalore from a usurper. You know, like you see, I want to know how Sabine relates to the fact that Ahsoka has such a pivotal role in Mandalorian history. Like, she not only was she there, she was the one who took Maul off the board on Mandalore.
Does Sabine not know that then?
I don't know if she necessarily doesn't know it so much as it's just like we haven't seen like how she feels about that. The same way Din Djarin like does not realize he's looking at somebody who liberated his homeland. You know, like like with and Din, again, it's the whole joke. Din Djarin has never seen Star Wars, so I can't blame him if he hasn't finished Clone Wars to boot. But that whole idea of like Ahsoka plays this pivotal role in Mandalorian history. What is like how do some of the Mandalorians around her feel, namely Sabine, who like has this weird relationship of feeling responsible for the Mandalorian annihilation. And again, because as much as people want to be like, oh, everybody shows up in the Mandalorian, this brain dead complaint, like that story is incredibly like restricted. Like, yeah, they're dealing with the Empire and they dealt this massive blow to the Empire, but it's like it's a faction. It is a fraction of a faction within the Empire that is like specifically devoted to messing with the Mandalorians. That they took on. Like there's no reason for any of those people to be even a little bit aware of anything going on, over here. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing in some way here. And I want them to talk about that. I want them to talk about that. I really, again, my hope for next week and how, again, it's not something I want to be explicit about because of that leak and I don't want to give it airtime, but like, I can't help but think about what I may have already been spoiled for. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting exploration of where and why Ahsoka had to be where she was at any given time. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we can talk about it off air. But yeah, no, I do truly love that. I love everything Anakin could represent for this show, for this story. I think Anakin getting forgiveness from Ahsoka, is going to be big. Like I'm excited to see Anakin give Ahsoka her groove back, but I also want Anakin to apologize to her. Like I want Anakin to have to like look himself in the mirror on this one because Ahsoka Tano is the only, not counting Luke, because it was not personal in the same way it was with Obi-Wan or Ahsoka. Vader didn't want to kill Luke. I want Anakin to have to look at the only survivor of Vader.
Yeah.
And have to be like, I am so glad you were protected from me. And I'm humiliated by the fact that you needed to be protected from me. Like I want that. I want him to have, again, because like, and it's one of the things that like, and I truly don't understand people who say that Vader has been nerfed in the new canon. I can think of like one fight he lost. Like straight up, like an actual fight he was defeated in the new canon, like and new edition, other than Jedi, where he has to lose. But
you can make an argument he doesn't lose in that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, when he loses, he does lose in Return of the Jedi. I think it's just circumstantial. I think that.
Oh, I thought you meant the games. I was like, does he lose?
Oh no.
I was like, does he actually?
No. He dog walks Cal and Seer in Fallen Order, and Seer gives him a run for his money in Survivor, and almost beats him. She almost beats him, but he wins because he walked away and she didn't. He limped away, which I love. I love that Vader's doing the like. Everything hurts and I'm dying.
It was tender.
Yeah. He's like, ooh, I guess I do have a couple nerve endings left. Okay. But No, like she gives Vader a run for his money, but he still wins. The only loss, again, like a straight up fight that he loses. There might be stuff in the comics I can't remember. That he loses. I'm referring to is in Obi-Wan. But even then, like he had Obi-Wan dead to rights on like the unnamed rock planet. You know, like it's Obi-Wan having, you know, doing the inverse of what you see a lot in Star Wars, where like your character will like tap into the dark side briefly to give them an amp to beat their opponent. It's one of my favorite things about that show is that Obi-Wan does that, but with the light side of the Force, that he taps into his love and compassion for these children. And that's what gives him the amp to call on the Force in a way we've never seen him use combatively and just beat Vader to a pulp. With Return of the Jedi, this is all non sequitur now, and this is your fault. With Return of the Jedi, the reason I think Luke beats him is I think he was going easy on Luke that whole fight. Because the objective was to turn him. And again, because Star Wars is like poetry, it rhymes. It's the same thing that happens with Dooku in Revenge of the Sith. Dooku was going. I think Dooku was using lethal force. I don't think Dooku was using kids' gloves on Anakin as much as Vader was on Luke. But the objective in that moment was turn Skywalker, kill Kenobi, turn Skywalker, and both Luke and Anakin in those moments tap into the dark side for this boost to turn the gas all the way up against somebody who was not like putting their full weight on them. So now you've like exceeded the person who is your better, and you also completely caught them off guard. And then like in that moment of shock and surprise, they get subverted. And that's why I think Vader loses there. I think Luke could have won, but it's whatever. I think it's more to do with Vader getting caught with his pants down. But
speaking of subverted, we haven't spoken about
it. Y'all are dumb.
We haven't talked about the elephant in the room yet, obviously.
You want to take that L, Mitch? You want to take that Ezra Bridger shaped L?
I mean, I hold no L's. I had no attachments.
Oh wow. Okay. That's a new one. Let me write that one down for my next Mephisto and WandaVision. Okay. I had no attachment to it. I just thumped my chest about it during the episode.
How can you say you had no attachments to Mephisto and WandaVision?
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's a ridiculous thing to say.
I mean, I had no attachment to Ezra Bridger. I literally sat on this channel and said for and against why. I also made no public statement about the theories to it.
You were you not saying that you thought it was Ezra?
I said it could be Ezra. I like the idea that it could be.
You really should go into politics, Mitch. You really should go into.
Do you know what? I've been told that so many times.
Wow, I've been told it could be Ezra. I do not recall.
My entire life is like, you could be a politician. It's like, I know, but I know. Yeah, I had no attachment to those theories whatsoever. I like the ideas of them. I didn't necessarily inherently believe.
Are a liar, but that's okay.
I
love you anyway.
I am not. I would absolutely hold that L. I would take that, but
no, the Marok going down like that was so funny. Well, and it was something I loved because when you see Marok fight Ahsoka on Corellia, you know, it was something I pointed out in my reviews was that you can tell both Ahsoka and Marok know he can't take her.
Yeah.
That's why he goes in with an HK assassin droid and is doing as much fancy footwork nonsense to keep her on her own back foot. Because he's like, I can't just take you on. You're like, she's an Inquisitor killer. And he's like trying so hard to like win by way of chicanery instead of just straight up sword play.
Chicanery.
And you see that in the forest on Cetos, that he's like, yeah, come, he tries to take her on, and he does it with all the bells and whistles, with the spinny Inquisitor saber. And I love that, like, Ahsoka takes out Marok in this beautiful marriage of the way that Kanan bodied the Grand Inquisitor and the way that Obi-Wan finally put down Maul. And that, like, again, it is that centered, you know, and it is a wonderful encapsulation of the light and the dark. With the darkness, it is this, like, it is just sheer violence,
over the top. No.
It is chaotic, like aggressive violence, you know, that is this spinning blade of death, versus Ahsoka, centered, like, you know, like trusting within the Force, guiding her to strike true one time.
Yeah,
she does not need a buzzsaw. Almost said my word. She does not need a buzzsaw to land the killing blow. It is centered, it is focused, it is calm, and it is defensive in nature.
Also, Obi-Wan saber.
Yeah. Which is a really interesting decision. Like, if I could ask Dave Filoni one question, it always would have been like the very basic, like, tell me everything about the world between worlds, and I promise I won't tell anybody else. That question has been immediately subverted by, why did Ahsoka only use one of her swords?
Yeah.
I so badly want to know why she only went in using one lightsaber for all of these fights. Like, you know, because she dual wields when she fights Marok the first time, and we see her use both of her lightsabers whenever she's fighting Morgan Elsbeth's goons at the shuttle.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the sword play, for some reason she switches to one lightsaber, and I think it's interesting because, as I was kind of talking about earlier, like, she kind of starts to do this weird amalgamation of both versions of Form 5, because, you know, Form 5, coming back to that, there are two different principles to it. There's Shien and Gemso. Gemso is like the lightsaber dueling version. It's what we see Anakin and Vader and Luke and Kylo use. That very heavy-handed, strength-based, counter-offensive style. Shien is is designed for aimed blaster deflection. It is the fighting style that popularized the reverse grip, which is what Ahsoka does. Like, it was kind of one of my favorite things about Anakin and Ahsoka as a unit is that they are both sides of this martial arts practice. And then Ahsoka, you know, like her master, like, dips into Form 4 a little bit, and her version of dipping into Form 4 was taking up a second weapon and the more acrobatic, you know, physicality of it all. The 7 forms are so cool, and just watch YouTube videos about them. It is watch the good YouTube videos. I shouldn't have said that. The only watch Jen Sarai on YouTube. Only watch his videos about the 7 forms and the people he works with. They have awful opinions about the new Star Wars stuff, but they understand the lightsaber combat stuff perfectly. But all of that to say, it was interesting to see Ahsoka kind of like lean away from the Shien into the Gemso, and I very badly want to understand that decision, production, choreography wise, and character wise. Why she went into this fight with only one lightsaber and thought that, like, that was the play. Part of my headcanon for that up to this point is that Ahsoka, traditionally, it does not fare well against power fighters. You know, she loses to Vader. She has to do a lot of the same chicanery that Marok does to take on Grievous in the Clone Wars, right? She doesn't, if I remember correctly, like, she does a lot of the same kind of, like, evasion, or just avoids the fifth brother because he's a power fighter. So part of me is like, oh, did she maybe, like, figure Balin is going to be kind of like a strength-based bruiser because he's a bigger dude? Did she make a calculated decision that she is going to, instead of, like, allowing herself to, like, split her physical strength in half, choose to come at him with everything in one place? But again, that is, we're getting beyond sweaty with that.
I was gonna say, I bet it's the two hands are stronger than one, and unless if you're doing a single strike,
and she wants to try to match him.
Yeah.
I also, coming back to the Marok stuff, I love. I know a lot of people have been talking about the whole Morgan Marok werewolf Arthurian legend. Dave Filoni is a wolf kid. He barked at his classmates at recess.
In a cowboy hat.
I'm not going to stop until that becomes just public misinformation.
I bet in a roundabout way it's true.
If I'm accidentally telling the truth, that would be hilarious. But no, so I love the idea that Marok is a reanimated corpse.
Yeah.
Because of all the green mist. I love the idea that like people were on the right track with the whole Morgan and Marok relationship. They just thought it was she turned Ezra into a thrall, when in reality she just reanimated a dead Inquisitor.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think you're going to get more of that. I don't think Marok's done.
Oh, do you think he's going to get back up? Do you think he's going to get back up?
100%. Whether it's him or a different Inquisitor or both, I don't know. But if your whole thing is I'm bringing Thrawn back as heir to the Empire, which they dropped like 5 times in this show so far.
Oh, they only said it once. They said it once. They said it a bunch in the trailers, and she said it once in this episode.
All right, I'm getting confused with the trailers. But even so, like, you kind of, in my brain, you'd kind of want that Force back. And if you're doing it once, why not do it again?
Yeah.
And just have them all rock up at the end. Obviously, they're not going to be as strong because they're zombies or Inquisitombies, whatever you want to call them.
I don't know. I think you could do some type of like BS argument of like Ahsoka like rocked his whatnot way too hard to bring him back, because she did kind of cut him in half. She did cut him in half.
Did she though? There was no split. It was just
it looked
pretty. He doesn't fall into 2.
And then he did.
I don't.
I think either way, I think he got messed up on that one.
I mean, he absolutely got messed up. Rock so hard you puff out of there. Like, goddamn.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that was great. I love the fight between Shin and Sabine. Visceral. I love watching those two fight. I love watching it.
Shin might genuinely have my favorite look of any Star Wars character.
Oh my god, like the robes and the armor. Yeah.
Like the old timey knight look. It's just it scratches that itch.
Her and Balin's like visual aesthetic is very much my jam. Like the only thing with Balin that's keeping him from being one of my favorite design characters is I wish his cape was more like attached at the back.
Yeah.
Like an Arkham Knight Batman type thing. Like, and not necessarily like a cloak he puts on that wraps around him, and more just like on his back is a cape. Like, cause that's my preferred like kind of cape look in general, or kind of like how Kylo Ren's cape is in The Rise of Skywalker.
You like a cape. You want a cape. You don't want a cloak.
Yeah, I want a cape, not a cloak. And there's just like, I don't know, it wraps around him too much for him to fight in it. And that's like, and that's my big thing is that like, I wish for him to be able to fight in that cape. That was my thing about Kylo Ren, was like, just have the cape be attached to him.
But then you don't get the cool like little shoulder shrug off and it all flops down.
I know. Well, he had that, and then he got to fight with the cape in The Rise of Skywalker, and I was happy. I could live with it.
For a brief moment, I was happy.
For a brief moment. Well, then he died. But no.
Yeah, I just have the whole yin yang skull and hatty side of Vader and Shin. I adore it so much.
I really hope, and again, if it doesn't, it's okay. It's all a matter of personal decision and artistic choices on the part of Dave and Jon Favreau, et cetera. I don't want the names to just be callbacks to Norse mythology.
No.
Like, there's a part of me that like really wants Balin's endgame to be some form of like doomsday. That like that's his whole thing of like, immense power for us. Like that means like we need to bring about the end times to reforge the galaxy.
Yeah.
Part of me is like, I want Balin Skull to run up to the level of a Darth Treya and shake that fence. Not quite go to the level of we have to destroy the Force.
Yeah. Well, he has that
like,
line. You can't create without destruction, or you have to destroy to create.
There is a part
and personally, I think after the whole Marek thing and that actually being a thing that came to be, it's going to be the same with Skull and Hey.
I hope those names go somewhere beyond just being cool wolves. But yeah, it was a wonderful episode. Absolutely loved it.
It was.
It was made for me.
Also, the whole shot again playing with Lightspeed, where Hera comes in, and they just boom. Oh, loved it.
Well, it's a fun reversal of what Hera does in Rebels too, because there's that moment in Rebels where she makes a jump to hyperspace through a hangar in a space station.
Yeah.
So I like the idea because she went through like
the hangar goes through them.
Yeah, she goes through this tiny bit of negative space through it, and here it's just this whole thing that is just this giant piece of negative space jumping around them. Also, shouts out to my boy Carson Teva.
Where's Zeb?
I don't know, doing other stuff.
We have Rebels Season 5 going on here, and I don't say that in a bad way. And we have no Zeb. Where is Zeb? We spent all this money on Zeb, and my boy's not here.
I don't know. I'm waiting to see what happens. I was surprised not to see him too. I was surprised not to see him.
I say,
in hindsight, there because he probably could have died.
No, don't do that. We ain't killing Zeb off screen.
Well, it would have been very much on screen.
Oh, you're talking about when he? Yeah, I get you mean that.
Yeah, that had he been there, he would have been in grave danger. So.
Yeah, but I mean, if we can forcibly make Hera and I can never remember his name from Kim's Convenience stay alive, you could do the same for Zeb.
Okay, first of all, Carson Teva, put some respect on his name.
It doesn't stick. All I can see is Why You Sneak Attack. That's literally all my brain ever remembers of him. And that's I adore that man, but I can't remember. I can never remember.
He's a good.
I want to say his name's Paul in real life. Or Phil.
Paul Yun-Sung Lee, yeah.
That's the one, yeah. See, I can remember that. But,
yeah. Who's going to be Uncle Iroh in the live action?
He is
Avatar, which I always forget. I'm like, oh man.
Is that the Netflix one or the
Netflix? He will be. It'll be like the same way they did One Piece. The way they're like adapting Avatar into live action as a series.
I can't wait to see them waste that casting. Fantastic.
I don't know. I think they'll stick the landing. I've been hearing good things about live action One Piece, which surprises me.
If you like a slideshow of plot beats without the meat in between, you will like One Piece on Netflix.
I don't know. I think it's deeply funny, and I say this as like an anime novice. I think that it is deeply funny that One Piece was able to be successfully adapted in the live action, but they peed the bed with Cowboy Bebop. Like, one of those seems a lot easier to adapt than the other. And it is very funny to me that it was One Piece they stuck the landing with.
My very strange thing is they did nothing different with One Piece and Bebop. They cut everything up. They move things around. It's almost exactly the same.
I mean, I don't know. I think again, I say this having not seen anything. One Piece seems like, One Piece seems like one of those things that's just like so impossible to adapt that like there's no way you don't have to cut things out and move stuff around. But again, the fact that like the consensus for one of those was, it's pretty good, and the consensus for one of them was kill it with fire. And
I just hate that I'm having to agree with IGN.
But like the kind of straightforward, like it's bounty hunters in space, didn't work. And hey,
Jazzy bounty hunters in space.
Jazzy bounty hunters in space, but like this fantastical pirate world, where like people eat magical fruit, and there's a guy who holds a sword in his mouth, and all of that,
Tales. No.
all of that worked, made it just fine. Jazzy bounty hunters, impossible. How?
Also, I resent the Netflix live action because it actually spoiled something I hadn't caught up with in the series yet. And then 3 days later, guess what? I get to that point. I'm like, cuff Netflix. If I had to sit through nearly 1,000 episodes to find this revelation out, and you spoil it by putting it in within the first 30 episodes of a damn adaptation, not impressed. Not impressed.
I'm sorry. Well, hopefully they get a couple thousand extra episodes to make it up to you.
I hope so too.
It's a shame we're not doing this. It's a shame we're not doing this in my stream, because there would have been a death to all of them there.
Oh yeah, you haven't got the power, do you?
I don't have my clips. I don't have my clips. We're recording this in StreamYard, but Mitch sent the room before I could, so I don't have my clips. I couldn't play my clips. I've been playing an Alex clip at the end of my call-in streams.
Playing a what clip?
Alex.
Oh,
well, you're actually one of the few people who have seen it, because it was that clip I only played for the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Because it's this clip of him saying quantum mechanics, and I was like, "Oh,
yes."
But I've been playing that for Ahsoka because he's like, space travel between different dimensions, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, this works again." Click.
You love to see it.
Oh yeah, listen. The more Alex clips, the better.
Well, what are you without your Alex clips?
Nothing.
They become inseparable now.
I know. I've just slowly turning into the same person.
It's like a weird Peter Parker Venom situation.
Yeah, it is. It
is. He's wearing Alex Jones like a skin.
Symbiote Jared just screaming about the globalists instead of the Phantom Menace. Yeah. Oh my god!
If someone can CGI that clip of where Alex Jones chases that dude in the street, but his mouth covers Jared and then he runs off.
Is the black suit?
Yeah.
Listen here, you. I can't say anything in that, as I'm not allowed to cuss on this channel.
No, you are not. But leaving off, I'd just like to remind everyone they're not jumping to a multiverse. So can we please stop peddling that? Guy from Comic Book who I can't name.
Okay. Dalton?
Because
hold on. No, pause. Dalton, why'd you say come get your boy?
What? Was that Tristan?
Was it Tristan or Dalton? Someone tagged me in the Facebook group with the screenshot of that tweet talking about, like, I hope they don't do a multiverse of this new galaxy. And they said, Jared, come get your boy.
Yeah.
And I was like,
that confused me.
This is not one of mine. This is not one of mine. Like,
I lay no claim.
Like, if it were Diaz or J-Ro, I'd be like, oh, yeah, like, I'll talk to him. First of all, I wouldn't say something that ridiculous. But also, I was like, you mean come get... I don't know him. I don't dislike Brandon Davis, but I don't know him. We've never interacted. I was so... I didn't know if it was like a, hey, Jared, you're the Star Wars take police. Go get him. But it was like...
I think that's probably what they were going for.
I know. It was like, come get your boy. He's not one of mine.
Oh, it's funny.
I
Galaxy, not multiverse. There are differences. I'm certain it was Tristan.
Oh man, I gotta fish through all of us making jokes about Armin on his birthday. It was Tristan. You were right. You were right. I thought it was Dalton for some reason. It was Tristan. Again, what do you mean? I'm so confused right now. I saw Come Get Your Boy. I thought it was going to be one of my friends. I thought it was going to be another Star Wars content creator I work with. I thought it was going to be like, Jerry, or that it says somebody I actually work with. It's like, what? I don't know this guy. I don't know him from Adam.
Who's
But
Adam?
yeah, I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
No.
Just like Brandon Davis.
Someone in the multiverse, I guess.
Someone in the multi galaxy. I don't know.
I'd love to know how they got multiverse from a different galaxy.
I think what they're getting at is that, like, Star Wars, despite being like this expansive universe, is restricted to a singular galaxy. And I think that what they're getting at is, like, if we're gonna finally break that taboo of like intergalactic travel, then maybe we're gonna like tap into like getting into like other weird sci-fi space nonsense.
Yeah.
And that like and that the idea of like intergalactic travel in terms of science fiction, which Star Wars is not, it's space fantasy. It is a fairy tale that happens to take place in space.
It has wizards in it.
Huh?
Literally fantasy. It has wizards.
Yeah.
It's literally
that like intergalactic travel is a hop, skip, and a jump away from like, and there's a multiverse and nonsense like that. So
which is funny because you have stuff like the World Between Worlds. Clone Wars literally has the personification of the light and the dark and the
you have Mortis and you have and
then we literally had a game where they travel to a different galaxy, come out for a planet to hide on. I can't think what it was called, even though that's
Tanalorr.
That's the one, yeah.
Well, I mean, but Tanalorr isn't in another galaxy. It's like a weird.
I thought it was.
No, it is like trapped in this weird like void in space. Like it's kind of like how Kessel had like the weird like vortex black hole that they had to traverse in Star Wars, or it's Star Wars, a solo Star Wars story. I think Tanalorr is basically that. Like there is this like impossible to traverse weird space anomaly that Tanalorr is inside.
I just saw massive machines and thought Mass Effect and the relays and different galaxies in that game. I was like, oh cool, they're doing this at last. But...
No, not quite yet. My apprehension with the extra galaxy stuff is it's
just going to be a sand planet, but over there.
No, shut up. This is why I need to babysit you when we talk about Star Wars. Please, Star Wars has a Tatooine problem. No!
I've never said that though.
No,
I've never
it
said
doesn't.
that. I've never said you.
Planet.
You know what? You confuse me with Armin every step of the way, and I find that offensive.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
I have never said on this channel that I need to be around to correct.
I have never said it's got a Tatooine problem. You say Andor bad once, and Maz is on your nuts for life. like a rabid dog.
You say Andor bad once, and I'm putting that in the Facebook group. Hold on, the direct quote. But no,
I said it with Armin Messenger as well. You say bad, you say it once, and that's it. Castrated.
But no, I think
I have never said it's got a Tatooine problem.
I know it's the sand planet jokes. But no, I think but the thing that frightens me mildly is that I never ever want the new canon to touch the Yuzon Vong. Like,
I have no idea what that is, so that's fine.
So in Legends. Legends,
they weren't the big random ball things from like Kung Fu Panda, were they?
No. In Legends, there was an invasion. And it took place like in this time period, like the post-Imperial, but the Remnant was around, where an extragalactic species called the Yuzong Vong invaded the Star Wars galaxy, and because they were from a different galaxy, they were unaffected by the Force, which on its face makes no sense.
No.
The idea that the mystical that the mystical force field that, you know, binds us, penetrates us, unites us together, that lives
He's
within all
isolated.
beings, is only in this galaxy, frustrates me. I can't remember his name because I'm bad at remembering the names of people on TikTok, but there's a Star Wars TikToker who did this great couple videos about like how Legends authors felt the need to like unfantasy a lot of Star
Yeah.
Wars, and the Vong was this like wild, like, no, it's spaceships and super weapons and none of your space magic. That like it I get nervous about the Vong. Now, I think there's a way you could do the Vong and bring them back into canon, and they're you know, people could argue that's kind of what the Grisk are with the Thrawn novels. But my thing with the Vong, and the thing that's disqualifying for me with them, is the Force resistance.
Yeah.
And that is why I just viscerally do not like the Yuzong Vong. Um,
We have that already, don't we? Though, isn't there some species that?
well, that was something that was introduced
What's the
in.
little anti-Semitic guy from Phantom Menace called? Like the little floaty parrot. I can't
Okay,
think.
that's Watto, and
That's
for
the one.
and but it's not that you can't use the Force on Watto. It's just that there are some species that, because of like how their brain, like the way their brains function, are impenetrable to Jedi mind tricks, like Hutts or Toydarians or Doros. That like it is because their brains like have like a weird higher functioning, that like the weak mindedness that is kind of like
Yeah.
that is necessary for a Jedi mind trick. Because like, you know, I think Neimoidians as well, like Neimoidians like are like hardwired for like, you know, understanding like, you know, a risk assessment and like stuff like that. But like because their brains are like have such a specific chemistry, that they are kind of impervious to Jedi mind tricks, unless it is from an incredibly powerful Force user or multiple Force users trying to influence somebody's mind, a la Mace, Obi-Wan, and Anakin, all kind of forcefully mind tricking Cad Bane. um but yeah, I don't like to use on Vong. And you know, I don't want everybody to misunderstand the world between worlds. Like, granted, we don't know that much about it, but the way it's been explained to us up to this point is that it is not time travel. It is not a multiverse. It is giving you glimpses of, you know, potential realities, and that it's, you know, a gateway to other places. But like, Ezra did not change the timeline by saving Ahsoka. She
Yeah.
always survived. It's, you know, as much as I don't like to invoke Harry Potter, it's Harry Potter time travel logic. The time travel is part of the timeline. You know, like there was never like Buckbeak never was executed. He was always rescued. They just didn't know that at the time.
Hmm.
Harry always has that pebble thrown at him. He just didn't know that Hermione threw the pebble at him across the way while she was sitting next to him at the same time. Like that, like it's that kind of time travel. The
Yeah.
time travel
Yeah.
all like it, you no didn't change the timeline. You're just now experiencing the other part of it you weren't privy to. And yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of fans that need to have that explained to them as time
I
goes
mean,
on.
after like stuff like Endgame and how that time travel went down, yeah, time travel
Yeah,
is
well, and I also,
time travel
again,
doesn't make sense. That's the point of it. It's not supposed to.
I
Stop
don't
trying
want,
to make sense.
again, I don't want to give any air or spoilers to the leak that was floating around. I do think that explaining that the world between worlds can give you glimpses into different occurrences versus this is like time travel and
Yeah.
alternate timelines. Like you're getting a glimpse of what could have been, you know, like in Rebels, like Ezra sees like, oh, like I could save Kanan. No, you can't. You're watching what happened from a different perspective now.
Yeah.
You cannot change it. What you were,
It's a peek behind the curtain. You still
yeah.
got the glass in
the
front.
the world between worlds is all of time happening concurrently. Like that's why when Ezra
Yeah.
first enters it, like you hear all those voices. You know, you hear Kylo Ren, you hear Obi-Wan Kenobi, you hear Leia, you hear Padme. Like you hear the voices of like the major players all at once, from
Mm.
the prequels all the way to the sequels. Like all of time is happening at once within the world between worlds, which again is part of why I think Anakin is kind of nonchalant when he shows up. But yeah,
Mm.
Ahsoka good.
Right. Ahsoka very good. Before we end this, I want to touch on Thrawn quickly.
Thrawn.
Yeah, Thrawn. Because obviously we're halfway through this now, and Mans hasn't, Elon Musk hasn't shown up. But is this something that gets resolved in this season? Do we see Ezra in this season outside of that hologram? Or is that saved for the Filoni movie?
We're seeing Thrawn. I don't think.
I mean, obviously we're seeing Thrawn because he's in the trailer, right? He's in the market material.
I've had some people speculate that we won't see Ezra until the movie. I don't think that's the case. I'm not sure. I don't know. But I feel like we're gonna see Ezra and Thrawn in the flesh by the end of this season. I feel confident in that.
Now, because I can't remember this show giving us any kind of hint to another way there. How do we get to where they've gone? Without that,
if I remember correctly, there's still a tracker on them.
Is there still a tracker on them?
That's how they found Cetos. So, assumedly, maybe there's a tracker.
No, well, I genuinely forgot about that.
There should be a tracker on them still. Now, you could also make the argument that they are so far away in a different galaxy that maybe it doesn't work anymore. I also think
Ahsoka, because Hugh Yang's communicator doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, well, I mean, but that was only because the ship got messed up and they were actively being jammed by the Eye of Sion. So maybe the tracker works. It's how Rey got the resistance to Exegol.
It's true. Yeah.
And maybe Ahsoka uses the world between worlds to get there.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Walks through a different gateway. Oh, look, here we are. Something force, something Purgle force, hyperspace. Boom.
Somehow Ahsoka arrived. Cool.
Somehow arrived. Damn you for that.
I'm full of him, I tell you.
Oh,
few and far between, but they come out eventually.
Oops. Well, yeah.
Like a shiny Pokemon card, you got to keep going through them. You get what you want eventually.
You'll get them eventually.
Yeah. So yeah, Ahsoka very good.
Ahsoka great.
It's nice to have a good Star Wars show begins with A.
It makes me angry that you make me defend Andor. In every other circle, I'm the Andor hater. I'm the one making fun of Andor fans. I'm the one talking about how you needed a Star Wars to say fascism bad for it to be smart. Meanwhile, there's a whole show about a diaspora of different people who narrowly escaped a genocide, trying to figure out how our culture can exist in this post-war environment. But oh yeah, that's called the Baby Yoda show and written off because Luke Skywalker showed up. Why are you making me defend Andor, man?
Because you don't to yourself.
It's not fair.
I didn't have the visceral reaction to Andor bad, but now that I know there is a reaction to Andor bad is the button. And it's incredibly funny. And I'll never be fired for having Andor bad as an opinion.
It's not fair that you get to just keep saying this and I can't play a clip. Reputation of it.
To make up for it, you can have control in 3 weeks' time. And I'll never once say Andor bad. Just say you can't play the clip.
It's not fair.
I am in Invictive. See you next Tuesday. Very, very much. So yeah, thanks for joining, Jared. It's greatly appreciated. Even though I don't think I had much of a choice this week.
Go watch a Nerd Academy podcast for better Star Wars opinions. Go watch Knights of the Nerd Republic.
that means your opinions on here were bad, though.
No, I'm saying from channel to channel, the overall quality of opinion will increase.
That still means Ahsoka bad, because I've been saying good stuff about Ahsoka.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It does.
Okay.
You're saying
You know
better
what?
opinion.
End the episode. End the episode, Mitch. Come on.
This is what you get when you
killing me.
can't take Andor bad.
I can take Andor. End the episode. We're not doing this anymore. We're not doing this anymore. I'm not allowed to cuss over here. No, you're milking it because I can't cuss and I can't play clips and you're trolling me and I cannot respond in kind.
I would never do such a thing.
Okay.
Just like I would never get emotionally attached to a theory and screech at people for several weeks about how said theory is right. And then, yeah.
Are you happy? Are you happy with yourself?
I am extremely happy, yeah.
I bet you are. I can tell.
Do you know why I'm extra happy?
Why are you extra happy?
Because you're the one that wanted to do this.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
And honestly, and again,
is this how Scotty feels?
Oh wow, you know.
This has got to be how Scotty feels, right? I think I get it.
That you were playing Epic Confrontations, Mitch?
I think I'm starting to get it. I think I genuinely get it.
The thing that's the most messed up here is that the main reason I wanted to do this is I thought Armin would be on, because I did want to roast Armin about his bad Star Wars opinions, because I know he's the machine for it. Because I do know the difference between you two, but now you're coming for me sideways right now, and it's not fair.
I mean, it was not unprovoked. Let's just put it that way.
Damn.
You make the bed, you sleep in it.
Yeah.
Just gonna let that marinate.
Y'all can't see me, but I'm just seething.
He's molding.
I am.
Anyway, join in next week for episode 5. I actually forgot what episode it was for a second there. I was too busy enjoying the moment. And go subscribe to Jared. Go subscribe.
Yeah. Go subscribe to Jared.
How close are you to 500 now?
Let me look. We are. Did you check before asking that question so I could say it?
No, I haven't. I'm not a religious guy. Hand on God, I have not watched YouTube for about 2 months because of Final Fantasy 14 and One Piece. I have not had the mental capacity for. I
thought you looked it up, so because knowing the number, I would get to say. We are 69 subscribers away from 500.
Nice. I thought you were going to say 420 then. It went the other direction, but it's still just as nice. I would take that number. So people have a choice. Either don't subscribe and keep that number perpetually. Or you can do the right thing and subscribe.
I would appreciate the latter. As a personal preference, I would like to monetize the channel. That would be nice.
Yeah, get my man's monetized.
Yeah,
I think after he needs it. Gotta get paid for the grilling. Gets it from every direction. Yeah.
I do. I really do. It's.
And now he might have just sparked a new direction. He's not sure yet.
Yeah, I know. Now it is international, which is insane.
Yeah. Ain't no pun gonna stop me. So yeah, subscribe to the Nerd Academy. Give them the monies.
Yeah, Patreon too. Listen to me wax poetic about laser swords.
And the space
for $5 a month. For $5 a month, you get me and Spencer waxing poetic about laser swords.
Yeah. So yeah, goodbye.
Bye.